All right, everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Daily Gooner Pod here on StreamYard and on other various streaming platforms. I'm Raphael, joining you from the United States on this very somber occasion. Obviously, football has been delayed with the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. I'm going to let my English cohort here, Sam, Jake, and MJ, say a few words, gentlemen.
Who wants first?
What is this? What has this done? What has this meant? I guess this, it's obviously thrown a spanner in the football schedule, but as we say, there are bigger things.
Yeah, there is bigger things, and the fact of the matter is, this is a woman that's dedicated 70 years of her life to England and the Commonwealth. So, it's bigger than sports, and ultimately, I believe it was the correct decision, whether people like it or not. But it's what happened.
I'm not sure how to answer that.
It's what happened, and at the end of the day, it's something that's happened, and we're a nation in mourning. But football is due to come back at all levels this weekend. So RIP Your Majesty, but we crack on.
All right, gentlemen, and as we carry on, there's a bit of business from the last pod that we just did not have time to address. Let's begin with the opening of the Europa League competition. MJ, let's bring you in. Arsenal traveled to Switzerland to play MZ FC Zurich. My apologies. Came away with kind of a ragged 2-1 result, but a result with a lot of encouraging points nonetheless. I'll let you start where you want to.
Yeah, I think I didn't get to catch the game because I was on a flight back, but I've seen a lot of the reports and a lot of the highlights, and I'm just reading around what people have thought about the performance and everything. I think the main thing really is, and there seems to be, it didn't sound like a very convincing performance, but for them, at the end of the day, at the end of the match report, it's just the win that counts at this stage of the season. I think it's the first game of the group stages. 3 points is what we see. If it was in the league, maybe the performance I'd be a little bit more worried about. But I think for what it is, we've off to a good start. We just got to carry on for whenever the next game is for the Europa League for us. I'm not sure who we're playing next. But I think the main thing for me really is I was really keen to see how some of the players that don't usually play got on. So I guess for us, it was Marquinhos, Vieira, and Edin Nketiah. They were kind of my main... They were kind of my main sort of interest really from the game. And I've seen the touch highlights of, I think, Vieira and Marquinhos. I'm glad to see Eddie got the winner. That'll be really good for his confidence. But I think Marquinhos really did steal the show out of all the players. And Vieira himself, he had a really good performance himself. So it can only do a world of good for them.
All right, Jacob, let's take with that. 8 changes to the lineup that went to Old Trafford for that loss. A lot of turnover, a lot of curiosity. Obviously, up top, Martinelli stayed on the left, but Eddie replaced Gabriel Jesus. Marquinhos on the right for Saka. I think a lot of curiosity about him. When he was signed in the summer, a lot of people thought he was a very cheap signing. Is he ready for this competition? Don't know if he's ready for the Prem, but he certainly seemed that he could answer the bell in Europa League.
Yeah, I mean, he looks absolutely ready for this competition, particularly these stages of the competition. Obviously, as we progress, we'll start to find out a bit more of him and, see his overall play and the general style of play we got. It's still a very, very small sample size. But just like when Martinelli made his debut in the Europa League, I think there's a lot of promising stuff there to be excited about. So I suspect at some point we are going to see him in the Prem just because of numbers and rotation and all that sort of stuff. So to get some minutes under him and a very positive performance, I think is all we really could have asked for, especially given all the changes in rotation. We said last week on the pod, we didn't really know what to expect from team performance against Zurich, because we've come to expect a certain way of playing and standard performance in the Prem, but we didn't know what to expect. And that showed a little bit, a lot of lack of cohesion. So to come in and perform that well, despite kind of not having the same players around him or the same cohesiveness, is credit to him.
All right, Sam, let's bring you in. I don't want to move from Marquinhos, but obviously he scored the first goal, showed some pace off the ball, and that nice finishing touch, and then was factored into the second goal with a very, very nice cross. Seemed very composed. And again, I'll take Jacob's point. He's been playing, I believe, with the under 21s and showing pretty well, and everybody said he's too good for that level. Where does he fit in based on what you've seen at this stage? Obviously, he's a work in progress.
I think given the amount of games that we're going to have between now and the World Cup, I believe it's back-to-back 2 games every week until then. I think that he probably will come and factor in as a rotation option for Saka. Given what Jacob's been saying about when Martinelli was coming in, he played for the under 21s. Both of them have been saying that they're too good for that level. The one thing that really impressed me about Marquinhos is that he's directing his travelling, and that he is able to go both ways, and he seamlessly is a big, strong lad. So I don't think he's going to have any issues in the Premier League, and it's just going to be a choice of when, how many minutes, and if he's going to be coming off the bench in some games, which I fully expect him to do. And actually, if you look at him during the training videos, he don't look out of place in there. So I think given now to the window, give him some minutes, and then see what we can do for a more permanent role for the second half of the season.
I think I'll add to Marquinhos. What I really like about him is, I don't want to compare him to Pepe or anything, but for a player at such a young age, he seems to be getting all the basics right from just the minutes that he's had so far. So if he's not taking a man on, or if he's not going opening, he'll just release it to the next player available, whatever he can find inside. I think one of the nice techniques that he seems to be showing, and he did it in the Europa League game, is this nice little looping pass into the back post. He did it a couple of times in the under 21s, and it's the way that he does that sort of long pass. It's kind of got no backlift, and he does it really subtly, but he just gets a nice sort of flight on it. It must be probably a signature technique of his. It'll be interesting to see how he develops that, but he's done it a couple of times now, so it's probably one to watch with the way that he does that.
And it seems second nature. I know early in the match, very early in the match, before his goal, he put one just right in that far half of the box, just missed Martinelli by maybe a foot. Would have been a very, very early goal. So again, something. Obviously, the forwards. You remember Jesus and Martinelli. People who were playing on that side must have been thrilled to just do that more. Sam, let's go back to you. Let's talk about the attack, because we got an extended look at Fabio Vieira in this match after all the injury, all the delay, nothing in preseason. It's just this guy is on layaway, and finally here he is. What impressed you, or what stood out from this performance in your eyes?
I think, well, knowing him as a player, his range of passing is fantastic. To see Vieira finally get a, I think he got 70 minutes. Might have played the whole game. Can't remember. But even still, the minutes that we got to saw him, we saw what he was about. Obviously, you saw a bit of rustiness coming back from injury, but you think as soon as he's fully up to speed, you amplify that, and it'll be a really good mixture to have him and Ødegaard in the side. I think that given Granit Xhaka in the left 8. I think some games you will probably be seeing Vieira there. And if you take the way that Ødegaard works with the right-hand side, you can see Vieira working very well with Martinelli and Zinchenko or Tierney on the left-hand side to effectively create a screen mirror down the side. So it will give us more options, more unpredictable moments. One thing that I did notice with Vieira is where he is quite slight. If we come up against a more physical team, he sometimes might get bullied off the ball. But again, that's working with the coaches and the conditioning coaches to see what the balance is, because we've seen some reports saying that we want him to have a slight frame to give a alternative option. So it's just going to see how the club manage him and see how he goes from there. But ultimately, he's a great player and he's going to give us a lot.
Jacob, let you kind of take a shot at that one as well. From hearing Sam, and it's something people talked about, that you now have a mirror, kind of an Ødegaard on the right, possibly Vieira on the left, a more similar style to what Xhaka brings, although, Xhaka has his own strengths. But are there certain clubs that you look at and say, well, Vieira might work better here, other clubs where Xhaka, does that parse out? They're very, very different physical specimens.
Yeah, I mean, it almost takes us back to the whole Yuri Tielemans debate, and different players for different games and the different role to Xhaka and all that sort of thing. And I think there will be elements of it. Some games we probably will start to see a Vieira in that kind of middle position ahead of Xhaka. Although I don't expect to see it in any big games right now, if nothing else for leadership. And the way Xhaka has adapted, he's done phenomenal. So that's still Xhaka's position to lose. But in certain games, even if it's off the bench, Vieira is going to offer a very different option in that position. And ultimately, I think that is the way the position's going to evolve to. We've all seen that board that said Smith Rowe was also an inside player from the All or Nothing documentary. So I think you can see that Xhaka is nailed down that spot right now. But long term, Mikel Caesar, Vieira, or a Smith Rowe, or someone more kind of forward thinking with different skill sets in that position. So that's a position that I really don't know how it's going to evolve over the season. Any player wanting it is definitely going to have to work hard to out Xhaka, because, as I said, he's right for it. Although he might not be necessarily the ideal style of player for that role, you can't take anything away from him. He's earning that starting spot right now. So, yeah. But with Vieira, the fact that he can play multiple positions, we are going to see him in different roles depending on the needs of the team and, injuries and rotation and whatever. So the fact he's got that versatility will be a plus for him to get minutes.
All right. Let's do a little kind of a tone reset, if we will. The last time we did the pod, obviously, the loss at Old Trafford was fresh. Everybody was smarting over that. I don't think anybody was anticipating that, the news of the Queen's health, or her downturn in health, and her, kind of rapid decay and passing would kind of stop everything. But, here we are, just 1 week later. At first, it looked like everything was going to grind to a halt. MJ, Arsenal had 2 games coming up. They had a match at Everton, and this week a midweek Europa match, and then this Sunday a match at Brentford. It seems that with all of this, 2 matches have been postponed, 1 in each competition. But it's strangely enough, it's going to lead to congestion. We'll talk about that in a moment. But it's now allowed Thomas Partey to come back, and in coming also let's say there's kind of a double-barreled effect. People were disappointed about the loss. People were also disappointed that there was no late pickup at the end of the window to get another rotation player for Thomas Partey, who was injured. And we had no Partey. We had no backup for him. But now it looks Partey's back. He's been training. He's going to be available this weekend. So in some strange way, Arsenal now gets to put their strongest team going forward. It seems that El Neni is the only loss in all of this.
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of benefited us in a really strange way. I think it's given some of the guys the rest they needed. I think Martinelli played 90 minutes last week, and that might be just out of because they knew that there might not be in a game over the weekend. Guys like Thomas Partey, it's definitely given us a bit of a breathing space to get all these guys back, especially with Brentford. I think at home, they're looking pretty good so far this season, and there's definitely a bit of revenge to sort of that we need to serve from last season. So it's worked out for us. It's given the guys that rest. Any players that are struggling with injuries, they're probably back to full fitness. It'll be interesting to see how fully fit Thomas Partey is. I know every time he goes down this weekend, probably be worrying most of the time. But it's sort of benefited us.
And Sam, there was some discussion when it looked like 2 weeks were going to be taken out and then an international break comes on. Should Partey go and play for Ghana because he will not have had any work with the club for a while? It looks now, obviously, sounds from Mikel's pressers that he's going to start against Brentford, that he's been training with the club for a week. That's not going to be an issue. What do we think about international break now? It seems that none of the top Brazilians, none of the Gabbies are going to go. You might want to touch on that a bit as well. But how has this, again, as MJ said, there might have been this strange, it turned out to Arsenal's benefit.
Yeah, I think it's a silver lining in essence, but I think that in regards to Partey, given we do need him up to match speed soon as possible for Spurs, Liverpool, etc. In October, and City, I believe it is. We need him to be fully fit and fighting. So I wouldn't actually mind him going with Ghana. It's just a case that we need to put a limit on how many minutes he plays and set that instruction to them to say, look, they're friendlies. He's not playing 90 minutes. He'll play 45 in one, 60 in another. How you manage that is down to yourselves. But if you go over that, then we'll be seeking to have words. So I think in that aspect, I'd be okay for him to go unless there was any struggles against Brentford at the weekend. But I don't imagine that if he's doing high intensity training for the past week. Just to touch on the Gabbies, a lot of people are saying that they're worried about them not being selected, things like that. But it's the typical Twitter turmoil or looking to see and make an issue of something that it isn't. It's been widely reported that the Tete is excluding them to have a look at the fringe players. So ultimately, it's giving them 2-week break, which actually could be very beneficial. So again, not worried about that. It's something that they would probably be thankful for, and given the fact Spurs have just lost 2-0 tonight in 90th and 93rd minute, their confidence is probably going to be on a bit of a downturn. So hopefully another loss for them at the weekend, and then they go into international duty on the back of losses. So in terms of our players, I think we're going to be able to manage them fine, and whoever's still going to be at the club, they'll be going through some training and potentially behind closed doors games. So just see how it rolls out.
All right, and Jacob, no fun coming off the international break. Once this match is done, we're going to see, right? Coming out Spurs Now, these matches are at the Emirates, thankfully, but they're going to play Spurs, then they're going to host Liverpool, and then I think there might be another match in between, and then City comes around. They're sitting top of the table. We hope for a good result this weekend that keeps them top of the table. But what do you do? Obviously, the Gabbies are going to be home. The Gabbies are going to be wrapped in cotton wool and massaged. And what would you do with Thomas Partey? And I'm of two minds of this. Before last year, in the first 3 international breaks, it seemed Arsenal under Arteta came out firing after every single one, and I was very confident over the last one. Oh, well, they have 3 matches that they should win. And then in that fourth turn, when they actually went into the break on top ahead of Spurs for the first time, they just couldn't handle it. So, what can we expect this time?
It's a tough one. What is going to help us is the players staying back. We know that Arteta loves these breaks because he gets time on the training ground with the players, because especially with these Brazil guys not going, he said before, like, some these periods of time are some of his best as a coach because he gets to work with the players without interruption, which is very rare in the season. And right now we don't have too many players going on the trips. Obviously, we do have some key players, but the Brazil boys not going does mean there is a good string of first team players who are staying back, and I'm sure there will be a friendly somewhere. So, and to be honest, some of these friendly games are probably going to be just as intense match fitness wise as some of the international fixtures get played over this period. So personally, I'd love to see Partey not go, but he's going to go. Like, we're not going to be able to overturn that. He's going with them. So, kind of a nothing debate. So, hopefully, with all this, time on the training ground, time to prepare, because Spurs will lose a lot of their players, especially their, 3 good players. So, yeah, hopefully, with the time to prepare, just, gel that attack more. Once again, Saka's kind of going to be the one missing out because Southgate will run him into the ground. But, Martinelli, Jesus are going to be able to link up a lot more on the training ground. And hopefully we'll see them refreshed and ready to go, because we know that we are going to have the ball against Spurs. We are going to be on the front foot, and we need them to be sharp to put it in the ball before they decide to counter us.
All right, break, rest. They've had it. We assume they've been training very hard this week. MJ, Sunday, Arsenal is announced. Arsenal has an early kickoff, noon kickoff, very early for us in the States here, depending on where you are, anywhere from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., whatever time zone you're watching. Gotta get your breakfast, get your coffee, and just set your alarm not to miss it. But not an easy match. Brentford away. They've been tough at their home ground. But this is, again, we looking in, coming out of Old Trafford, when we talk about rest and everything else, there was some concern that players like Jesus, we talked about this a bit in the last one, is the most fouled player in the Prem. It seemed teams didn't like what he was doing, and he certainly at Old Trafford, it was United's strategy to rough him up. Saka seemed to be looking a little fatigued at points because he's had no breaks. Tomiyasu Tierney should now, with this rate, we hope both be 100% whether they're starting or not. Ben White needed a break. It's almost like this is another debut.
Yeah, I think if you had asked me last week how I'd be feeling about the Brentford game, I think I'd probably be a little bit more nervous. But I think the way that the cards have felt, or fallen even, I'm a little bit more confident going to the Brentford game. I think I'm not sure how many teams will take points away from their ground. I was having a look at the fixtures from last season, and they didn't win too many from home. Chelsea went there, got points. I think we were a few teams that didn't do too well. But it's fallen for us. I'd probably be going into this expecting to win as everyone else. Having Partey back is a massive boost. So I could expect Saka and the same sort of team to go ahead. Not too many changes. It'll be Partey coming in for Sambi. I'd be surprised if there were any changes. I think the only other change potentially might be Tomiyasu for Ben White, but I don't see the formula changing anytime soon until after the international break. But definitely going to far more confident than I was maybe a couple of weeks ago, because I think that's a game where you could probably easily drop some points. But if we can get the 3 points from there, that'll be a really good sort of statement boost. I think it'll be in the same lines of how we got the points from Crystal Palace.
Sam, do you agree with this? Arteta went with the same lineup for the first 6 matches because why mess with a winning formula? And it won for it, 1 in 5 matches. Are you looking for that? Are you looking for, that lineup pretty much unchanged now, especially that they've had a rest?
Yeah, definitely. I'd probably put Zinchenko in for Tierney. But other than that, it's gonna be the same. It's gonna be consistency. Ultimately, consistency is going to be key throughout. And if we've got a settled lineup, it's down to those on the bench to really come on and show their worth. So again, it's double-edged in the respect of the team really pressing forward, and then whoever comes on to again try and impose and try and take their place in the next starting 11. So I think given the form table, we are on better form than Brentford at the moment, given they've had a few draws in there against teams that you would probably expect them to get points from, especially Everton. So I think it's down to us and our mentality. We tend to like earlier kickoffs, so just see what happens. It's going to be a high intense game, and I think that we just need to be a bit wary about them on the counter attack. They do like to switch up with that as well. But again, given what we said originally last season, they've not changed their formula that much. They're gonna have hard runners from midfield, and it's down to our midfielders to track and cope with that and really deal with the transitions. But given the state of the team from last season to this season, is night and day. And I think given a striker that presses them from the front will disrupt that first and foremost. So I think that we would be in better stead than what we were last season. So for me, I think that we've got enough to overcome Brentford.
All right, Jacob, similar question, but I'm going to change it up just a touch. Let's say these gentlemen seem to be in the mind that things shouldn't change much because they don't need to change much. But if you were looking for a surprise starter, one tweak to this lineup, I'm going to put a name out there, and you can pick another one. You don't have to take mine. But I think Eddie Nketiah's overdue some time. Maybe do a start. He scored a goal in this match, in the last match, in the Zurich match. Might that be? I mean, Mikel might just say, "Why change?" But if you're looking for a change, Sam said maybe Tomiyasu for Ben White. But where else might you look for a tweak?
Honestly, I don't see any sort of surprise start. Tomiyasu for probably Ben White, but anyone that's centre backs is probably the only choice that I could see Arteta making. Eddie is the only one who's really maybe pushing, coming off the bench. He's probably one of the only ones who's really stood out and shone for me. The others haven't done enough to force a change yet, as far as I'm concerned. It's too soon for a Vieira or a Marquinhos to be starting. And anyone in that attack doesn't deserve to lose their place either. So given the rest and given everything else, I just can't see a change. I suppose now that we're expecting Partey, the only surprise would be Sambi starting if Partey's not quite deemed ready to start. But we know right now Mikel likes his settled for starters and formation. We've had a rest. And we're going to have a rest after this. There's no there's no need. Let go full strength and really try and put it to Brentford. I just don't see any reason for a surprise starter.
And again, we've talked about this. We haven't really. Let's talk about this. Mikel has 5 subs, and he's made very sparing use of that. I don't know that he's used all 5 subs. I think he did at Old Trafford against United, but in the wins, he's been very sparing. It's almost like it seems it's a reminder. Hey, Mikel, you can change this a little bit more. MJ, Brentford, might you see more rotation there?
I think he'll probably stick to what he's been doing so far, apart from the United game. I think the United game was probably out of sort of desperation to make most of the chances there. But before that, I think his first subs, apart from possibly the Fulham game, where Eddie came on quite early on, I think he came on the 60th minute, but everyone else has probably been after that mark. I think he'll probably revert back to that sort of formula. I think because he knows he's got the 5 subs, I don't think he'll necessarily use all of them. It will depend on the situation as well, depending where we are. If we're in a losing position, we'll see if that United formula comes back into it. But I'm not expecting anything to change from what he's been doing in the first 5 to 6 games. I think he'll stick to maybe the first sub after the 65th minute or whatever.
Slightly different, and I'm going to put it to the 3 of you, but since you're here, I'll stay with it. He hasn't used 5 subs when things are going well. Should he? Just to keep his lineup fresh, given how long it is, and we're going to have these stops and starts and these really congested stretches coming up. You think he should maybe rest his starters, or let's say pace them more? What do you think?
I can go first. I think
no. I'm staying. Let's stay with you. Everybody's going to get touched with that one, but I didn't want to run away and just let you touch that one. But you were talking about you don't think there's going to be much change, and he hasn't used 5 subs. What I'm asking is, do you think he should?
Probably not. Don't see any reason to. I think it's too early in the season to be using the full 5 subs for fitness reasons. I think we'll probably see. Will be interesting to monitor the patterns of his subs going into Christmas. After the World Cup, when we come back from the World Cup and the games after that. And we'll see if he does use the 5 subs. But no, I think as it is, I don't think he'll probably change. He's quite a stubborn guy as it is, so I think he'll leave it as it is.
That he is. All right. Sam, what do you think? Should he be using more subs?
I think possibly in the month coming we would have to, because we've got pretty big games on the horizon. But also one thing that we've got to take into consideration is, fair enough, we can make 5 subs, but we can only do it in 3 moments. So depending on when them moments are, and typically they're after the 60th, 65th minute, then I think it really depends game by game. Like we've made 4 subs in the Villa game, I think it was. But it's how much do you want to disrupt the team to disrupt the rhythm, and especially if it's clicking attacking wise, do you really want to take out, say, 2, maybe 3 of them attackers and replace them? Then you're having to find a whole new rhythm in a short amount of time, whilst ensuring that you don't concede. Like in games, we haven't been massively in the lead to be able to do so. So I think that it purely comes down to game management and where we are in games, and at what certain times we make them changes.
All right. Sam makes a good point, Jacob. He hasn't had big leads. He's had modest leads. In some cases, thin leads. One goal leads. If you're the manager, what do you do? Do you stay or do you pace? You start pacing.
It's led nicely, because my point was going to be about scoreline. The one game I would have loved to have seen him make more subs and maybe have seen some of the younger players at that point in the season was the Bournemouth game. But yeah, generally the Leeds haven't been there. I think we said in one of the early ones of the season, maybe just as we came back, or it was a point in one of our group chats, I think we are expecting to see more big wins this season. They haven't come so far, and that has been, to the detriment of some of these youngsters just getting those 15, 20 minutes game time. Because, if we've got a good lead and the game getting disrupted, even if we lose that cohesion, it's not a big issue when you're sitting 3 or 4-0 up with 15, 20 minutes to go. But when when it's 1-1 or we've got a 1-goal lead, you can't risk that slipping, because if you lose that cohesion and that causes them to get a goal, and some will argue that actually making all those changes against United in one go killed our rhythm for a moment, and that cohesion lost and they scored a goal. Some will debate the other way, which is fine, but you just can't risk it when you're holding on to a narrow lead to make too many changes and disrupt the entire rhythm of the team, no matter how good those players on the bench might be.
All right, let's circle back. Predictions, MJ. Brentford Sunday. We haven't seen this club in a while. Which club are we going to see?
Predictions. I think we'll do a lot better than we think. I think I'm going to go for a convincing 3-1 win, not a loss. I'm pretty confident. Anything less, I think it'll probably come down to maybe if we do see a performance that we're not expecting, it'll probably come down to the sort of the cancellations and the game time and the sort of the gaps in between. But I don't see why that should slow us down. So I'll go for a 3-1 win.
All right, Sam, you're the one that said a couple pods ago that we still haven't seen Arsenal click. And a lot of factors in that could either contribute to them clicking or prevent them, hold them back from this being the match. Obviously, the break, the unforeseen break. But on the other hand, as we said at the beginning of the match, they're healthy. Which Arsenal do you think we will see this weekend?
I think we'll see one that dominates the game again. I think that given we will probably have about 82% possession, I think that we'll probably go for a 2-0 win. I don't see Brentford coming out trying to stand with us toe-to-toe. I think they'll try to play on the counter-attack, and if they need to get out, lump the ball up to Ivan Toney and just hope that he can keep hold of the ball and take them up the pitch. But given that we've got two very physical defenders in Gabriel and Saliba, I think that Tony's going to have quite a rough game, and I would probably hedge my bets on him getting sent off by doing something stupid, to be honest.
Okay. Jacob is just wide open. What are we going to see? What do you think we're going to see?
Well, next time I'm doing my score prediction before MJ, because that's 2 weeks in a row he's stolen mine. I'm also going 3-1. I do think it will be, as Sam said, front foot dominant performance possession-wise. I do think we have the centre-backs for the battle. But right now, we do seem to be conceding a few silly, sloppy goals that haven't caused us an issue yet, but we need to stamp them out. But I just have a feeling with all the battles going on, and they will run off Tony and run in behind, I could just see just one sloppy moment somewhere, even if we're already 3-0 up, them just getting some sort of consolation goal. But yeah, on the whole, it's going to be a dominant performance. I just really hope that we don't see too many more sloppy mistakes or, goals we shouldn't be conceding. Even the Leicester game, 4-2, that should have been 4-0. There's no need to concede any of them. And we've seen a couple others. So that's kind of what I'm keeping an eye on this weekend. Can we start to stamp that sort of stuff out? But yeah, I think we still have too much. So 3-1.
I'm gonna pick that up and say that this is the week that they close that. I mean, as you said, it's been self-inflicted. You know, you had the Saliba own goal in one match, and then you had the Gabriel being dispossessed in the Fulham match, and then some sloppiness from the keeper. And obviously they suffered when Partey was out. Now Partey's back. I think that's going to contribute a lot to tightening that up. I'm gonna say 2-0, and we'll walk away saying, why didn't they score 4? That seems to be the pattern with this club. I don't think it's quite ready yet for it all to gel up front, but I do think they'll create their chances and get what they need. All right. Where do we go from here, gentlemen? We've been, it seems like every time we wait, we're like, well, what about a new move? What about this? What about that? They're going to play this one match and then they're going to go away again. It's like we start, we stop. But MJ, if they win this, they're going to go on international break, top of the league. Let's talk about the mindset of this club, because last year, obviously everything was triage from the beginning. There was chaos, there was protests, there was fan protests. They fire the manager. You know, they're filming All or Nothing, and everybody thought, oh, we're gonna see, you know, the crisis. We're gonna see it all fall apart from the inside. Things turned around right about this time. So, how is it different this time? Especially if they come away with this win.
Yeah, you compare where we were this time last year. Where are we now in sort of September time? Can't remember what game we played by now. I think the difference this year is we might have started the season earlier for the World Cup. But I think the mindset, we're definitely in a happy place around the club. I think the loss to United didn't put us off too much. Obviously, there were some concerns from the performance and maybe some errors at the back or whatever. But I think if we can get away with a win this weekend, go into the international break, that's 2 weeks away from Premier League football. And when we come back, the last time we came back from an international break, I think might have been Palace away. Do correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went onto a streak of 3, so losing 3 games. We've got to be able to stamp that out when we come back from this international break. Especially as it's against Spurs. So that's going to be really interesting. But in terms of the mindset, I think we are better suited. There are better profiles of people now on the pitch and behind the scenes. And I said this before once, I think the losses to Newcastle and Spurs towards the end of the season, they've now got that in that system, that sort of hurt, that sort of pain of losing and missing out towards the end. So they'll probably be better prepared when we do come back from the international break. But if we can get that win this weekend, we'll be going into the break in a really good position. So let's see where we come back to.
Sam, good health, good position, elite position. 9 day. I mean, you know, what can you add to that?
Yeah, I just think obviously the dream for us is to be challenging for the title come the end of the season. We'd all dream for that to happen. I just think that we've got to be realistic, and this isn't to put a dampener on the start of the season or where we're at the moment, but I just think we've got to put a more realistic spin on it. The target is top 4 this year, and if we do, say, draw against Spurs or drop points, whatever, that's fine. All we've got to do is literally beat the rest of the league, and we'll be there or thereabouts, either with a challenge or securely in the top 4. That's how Wenger used to do it back in the good old days of constant Champions League football. But I think given the state of some of the clubs that are supposedly the big 6, I think that we're more than capable of beating them. Again, it's making sure we've got good health, making sure that players are in the right mindset, make sure that they're not fatigued, and making sure that we make use of our squad, because there was a point in our WhatsApp group a couple of weeks ago saying that we've actually got less players than what we did last year.
Shorter squad, right? That was
apparently so, even though 2 of them were youth players that went out on loan anyways. But the fact of the matter is we've got a better base quality within this squad, so we're not reliant on Lacazette, for example. Sorry, I'm going to go back to there because he was bloody useless. We're not relying on him. We've got genuine quality in key areas, and I think that's going to be enough as well to carry us through to the top 4. But in terms of mindset, immediately, I think that win against Brentford, you go in top of the league. I think that given the amount of games that's going to turn around, it might have a different mindset for how Spurs approach the game against us. Same with Liverpool as well. But again, as long as we ignore the outside pressures and concentrate on how we play football, I think that we'll be all right this season.
All right, Jacob, you get the final word this week. Does the manager, let's say 3 points come from this match, and you've got 18 points going into the first international break. Really, I don't think you could have scripted it any better. 6-1, 18 from a possible 21. Assuming good health, nobody is injured going into the international break. Sam said, keep your eye on the prize, top 4. Do you let your horizon creep a little bit at this stage?
No, definitely not at this stage. I wouldn't let that creep up until the final kind of few games of the season. But yeah, top of the league right now, which is great. And that I agree with Sam. The aim is clearly top 4. But what this is doing now is building that foundation for top 4. We're putting the points on the board. So I don't get people who go, oh, it's only points early days. These points still count at the end of the season. I want these points on the board. So, it allows coming out and performing well right now does allow when the games are building up and everything like that, it just allows that when those inevitable bad performances or bad results happen, because let's be honest, they will. Still a young squad. Maybe not quite enough depth to cope with the amount of games that's going to go on. There will be the odd bad performance and bad result, which is fine because we are right now going out and putting these points on the board. So it just allows that little bit of leeway. So it's not going to come down to, losing to Newcastle late in the season that cost us. We missed a lot of points early on last season. We've not this time. So we've built a strong base for that top 4 challenge. And that's all you could really ask for at this point of the season.
All right. Either of you gentlemen have anything else that's come to light during the pod? Sometimes these late-minute clips. Obviously, we know Spurs have lost today. It seems like Liverpool were struggling again. But anything else that contributes to the Arsenal zeitgeist mindset change, stay the course? What say you?
I think it'd be interesting to know how the youth coach who left us yesterday, I can't remember his name, but I wonder if we know enough around how that might impact our scouting on these young players. I'm not sure how many of those young players will make it to the first team, but I wonder how much that impacts us long term.
Okay. Yeah, that is a interesting point. I think that given the turnover within the youth sides as well, in terms of Betsy going off to Crawley, again it's upheaval. But I think with her being at the top of the academy, they've got a clear identity of who or the type of person that they want within certain roles. And I think given how we've recruited so far, I think that we'll be all right in that respect. For whoever comes in, it might even be a internal promotion. From one of the scouts at that level. But we'll have to wait and see on that one, I think.
Well, all right. Again, match on Sunday, early match. We'll be back Tuesday, hopefully with another good result to parse and an international break to ponder. Obviously, we'll all have our rabbit's feet and other talismans, hoping for good health for those players who do go out. But in the meantime, I guess, we can't complain. It's been a good start to the 2022-2023 campaign. So let's stop here. Let's cross our fingers. Let's count our blessings. Let's look forward to another Arsenal win this weekend. Again, you can see us all. If you look at the bottom of our screens, you see our personal Twitter handles. You can find us online at the pod at Daily Gooner Pod on Twitter. And you can find our website at thedailygooner.com. So look for us there. Stories are popping up all the time. New stories, fresh insight into the club from all of us here, and some new people, new names coming in. All right. So for Jacob, for Sam, for MJ, I'm Raphael. We bid you a good night.